Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you haven't done so already, please check out episode 1 of this video series on Capitalism Noir and the disappearance of present time, where I introduce most of the terms I'll be discussing in this video. In the previous episode, after laying out the analogies between capitalism and film noir, I speculated that capitalism is about to implode, like the aesthetics of film noir did with the arrival of color film processes. And now today, I'll be addressing the question I left unanswered at the end of the episode 1, which is, in light of its many inherent crises and the new economic models on the horizon, how come capitalism has not already imploded? Well, the short answer is, it's because capitalism's detractors are being stifled, most effectively with the preservation of time scarcity within the renter class. We, the renters, have very little time left, present time, to self-organize outside of the fringes. We're kept too busy under a busyness model, keeping us time poor with low-paying jobs, high rents, high debts, and high-maintenance social networks. In addition, and this is the void I'll be trying to fill in this video series, I find we are lacking in intellectual awareness of our condition, and this very lack of awareness constitutes another effective tool for capitalism to preserve its current position of power. So, the long answer is, we're kept busy and time poor to stop us from organizing a unified front against a system which separates we the renters paying rent from them, the proprietors, the owners of capitalist property. And this way, we're continually being distracted, kept unaware of the disappearance of the present, even on an intellectual level. So I'm not sure if this is done consciously or not, but it seems that many authors, especially those in the humanities, are speaking of the disappearance of the future instead of the present. I could think of a number of case studies, but to keep my videos brief, I've chosen the writing of just 3 exemplary authors: Mark Fisher, Francis Fukuyama, and Yuval Noah Harari, to outline how much intellectuals focus on, wrongly I claim, on an erasure of future time rather than of present times. And in this episode in particular, I'll be critiquing Mark Fisher, who famously said it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Maybe. I'll unpack this quote in a later episode, but first I want to address his broader thesis, which argues how capitalism is held back from collapse through its very power to erase the future. So in his 2014 book entitled Ghost of My Life, Fisher speaks of hauntology, a term first introduced by Jacques Derrida in 1993 to outline how Marx's ideologies still haunt us beyond his grave. Via hauntology, Fisher describes a shift in current cultural formations away from the emergence of new ideas and towards more atemporal and ghost-like re-emergences of old ideas. He uses this remark to allege that our vision of the future is haunted, filled by repetitions of the past that are arresting the development of any alternative to capitalism from coming into the future. Although I agree with Fisher's conclusion that alternatives to capitalism are obscured, I disagree with the process by which he came to that conclusion. Firstly, his reasoning feels too similar to Jean-François Lyotard's explanation of postmodernism, that nothing new is being created in the world, only repetitions of the past, when it's so obviously not the case. Plenty of unprecedented cultural forms are emerging on the margins of mainstream culture, which is the usual place to look for innovation, not the mainstream itself. Moreover, as a remix artist, I welcome the means by which the past mingles with the present to create new things. I actually much prefer this kind of mingling than to entertain the illusion that new ideas come straight out of nowhere, out of nothing. They don't. And what I just said about past and future times is also true about spaces. In today's world markets, new cultural forms will also inevitably emerge from the encounter of previously disconnected territories and the rising number of exchanges between local patterns of music, food, art, and so on. Such unions add up to much more than the sum of their parts, as a music fan, I've witnessed the birth of dubstep, trap, vaporwave, witch house, intelligent metal, and as an art connoisseur, I saw the emergence of British YBAs, post-internet art, zombie figuration, NFT art, and countless other culture forms that combine, transform, and add to the old to make the new, and mix the familiar with the unfamiliar. Of course, some like Fisher might respond that these are only minor trends, but the same has been said about minimalism, pop art, and even impressionism, and look at these now. We should remember that new was only recently added as a necessary criteria of value in art history, most featured in the modern art period, which also feeds the capitalist drive for growth. In repetition, in the re-emergence of past phenomena, Fisher, Derrida, Lyotard, and others see an erosion of the future, an end of grand meta-narratives, an end to common goals for people to build towards a common future. But with the exception of modern times and places, when and where the cult of the new became all-encompassing, most other human cultures celebrate repetition, such as in the perpetuation of traditional folk stories. Whether or not we're still living in a modern age or postmodern age, or have never been modern to begin with, it's a huge question which I won't go into detail now, but maybe soon I'll do another video on Bruno Latour, who articulated this question very well. But in the meantime, I would say that yes, repetitions of the past are occurring, but these are filling our experience of the present and not so much our vision of the future. And no, this alone is not stifling our ability to act on the present. It's really not. Mark Fisher, in Ghost of My Life, seems oblivious to the positive effects of past repetitions, as with folk stories, and also he appears unwilling to notice the most engaging meta-narrative in progress today. This unifying fable, common to all renters at least, is to be found in the unified front against proprietors I was speaking about at the start of this video. This is our meta-narrative, our grievances against the greed and unfettered growth at the heart of capitalism noir. Ironically, what is common to renters of all shapes and sizes and of all values is their precarious position in the capitalist system. On closer inspection, we find such grievances are not few and far between. They're common to the complaints expressed by the umbrella protesters in Hong Kong, the Gilets jaunes in Paris, the tax protesters in Colombia, water protectors in Canada, Black Lives Matter across America, climate activists all over. And dare I say, these protests also resonate with the grievances of US white working classes, which have been co-opted by right-wing ideas. But initially, even this subgroup of renters was correctly protesting their loss of manufacturing jobs as a result of NAFTA and outsourcing to China, and they did originally direct their frustrations towards the corporate leaders who orchestrated this change. How white working classes came to instead scapegoat other renters of different shapes and sizes for their lost jobs. I can't explain this in detail right now, but I will say that this predicament is pretty convenient for the said corporate leaders, since it challenges our ability to act as one. This kind of scapegoating result in dividing us, in wasting our time with internal conflicts, distracting us from a unifying narrative that proprietors are still focused on growth at all costs, and that is to say, their growth at all costs to us. Growth is still the main imperative of capitalism, and it is crushing us. So, to sum up my thoughts in this episode, I would say that it's uncertain whether upcoming crises like the housing crisis of 2008 and its ensuing austerity measures, or like the current pandemic and its ensuing shortages in global supply chain, it's uncertain whether such crisis may on its own trigger the collapse of capitalism. But what is certain is that an international political awakening of renters, mobilized by a culture of protest, which may become our own meta-narrative, it's certain that this would hasten the fall of current economic injustices and accelerate the rise of more benevolent relational systems. And of course, the proprietors of today's economy will do everything they can to deflect and delay this awakening from occurring. Likewise, Mark Fisher ignores such emergent cultures of struggle in his 2014 book to further distract us on an intellectual level. So indirectly, he is endorsing inaction in the present, as he's expecting us to look in the future for hope when our salvation can only come from action in the present. We need action now in the face of urgent crises we see every day in the news, like massive wildfires, flooding, famine, epidemics, and the list goes on. And okay, that's all I'll say for now about Fisher's way of thinking, but in the next upcoming episode, I'll address how his thoughts echo the conclusions of Francis Fukuyama in his 1992 book, The End of History, and this is what is coming up soon. But unfortunately for today, I've run out of time, so if you want to watch out for upcoming episodes of this series, please like and subscribe, and I can reach out and keep you posted on when the next videos will be online. So in the meantime, don't hesitate to tell me what you think of the ideas I put forward so far in the comments below, and hope to see you soon, and thanks for watching.